Hey guys, thanks for joining me on a conference call to talk about what kind of threats we've seen in the cybersecurity space evolve as the COVID and shutdown in place has evolved. Derek, I thought it'd be good to get kind of your thoughts on what you're seeing there in FortiGuard Labs, kind of what the threat's been doing. And then Courtney, I thought given the, in your CISO role, you're having a lot of conversations with customers, you could kind of share what you're seeing customers talk about as they've dealt with the COVID threats. But Derek, let's start with you. How have you seen this whole threat evolve over the time that we've been sheltering in place, and we've seen, COVID cyber attacks, start, and what are we seeing now?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on here, Peter. Again, it's great to speak with you, and good to see you again, Courtney. Evolve, I think, is the key word here. It really has been an evolution that's been following a similar curve and landscape in terms of, world news, events that are associated with COVID. We always see similar parallels in the threat landscape. And, one of the differences here that we've been observing FortiGuard Labs, we have over 6 million sensors deployed worldwide. So we get to follow telemetry, and we're also following attack campaigns that are related to COVID. And if we look at COVID, the attack campaigns are primarily targeting people with either information stealers, Trojans, ransomware, but the key difference is the effectiveness of these social engineering lures, first of all. And the second part is that the attack surface is just much larger. When I say attack surface, it's because this is a global pandemic. This isn't an isolated incident in one region that attackers might go after. This is a global audience. That means more victims. That means more cyber criminals that are coming to the table with it too.
So what kind of numbers are you seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, if we look, the largest spike and rise that we saw, Peter, was back in March. So the second week of March, we started tracking anything related to COVID campaigns. We saw things that were targeting, layoff notices that were starting to target employees from HR. We saw things like, health authority impersonations. We saw personal protective equipment sales. All these sorts of things that were related to, invoices, things like that. They're mostly related to malicious attachments. In March, it was the highest, it was the peak, the highest wave that we saw. We were seeing over 600 campaigns in just one day on average. These are 600 different campaigns. So this isn't just, one or two different flavors. And again, the reason that we saw such a rise was that, obviously it was brand new and hot at the time. And cyber criminals are quick to jump on this globally. And we're seeing campaigns in different languages as well, so regionalized languages across the world, and that just really shows the breadth and depth of this in terms of attack surface, and that is one of the primary main differences that we saw compared to other attack campaigns that we've seen in the past.
As you mentioned, it is global. How has that number changed over time? Is it getting better? Has it gotten worse?
So it depends how you slice it and look at it. The good news is that as a collaborative success model between the industry, we got on this early with FortiGuard Labs. We've been adding, constant protections for all the attack techniques and tools, the social engineering lures. We've been doing education campaigns, putting that into our security fabric as an example. That makes it more difficult for them to have success and execute on these campaigns. We've also been working with partners like Cyber Threat Alliance, like Interpol as well. And that whole global effort has actually been reducing the spread of cybercrime. I'm not saying that it's not real or a threat, it certainly is. But if we look over the months, we went down to that mean average from about 600, Peter, to around 240 in April, around 120 different campaigns on average daily that we're seeing in May. And now we're sitting about that 75 to 80 mark. So we've seen a steady decline in COVID-19 related social engineering lures, but now we're starting to see other things take the place, right? So there's obviously in different regions, different climates, different things are happening. We're seeing, we went from layoff notice scams before to job hire scams now. We're seeing things that are related to new phase reopenings, like phase 3 openings as an example.
Wow, I'm glad to hear that we're making progress, but I guess we always need to stay vigilant on the way that the criminals are changing their tactics and using different lures.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is why we're on this on a daily basis. Of course, we're providing regular updates on social, on blogs that we're doing. And At the end of the day, if you look at cybercrime, the actual core mechanics of an attack life cycle doesn't change, right? It's all about trying to lure a victim in, to penetrate their system, compromise data, and then in the world of cybercrime, profit from that. It's just the difference here is that instead of these attack campaigns lasting 1 or 2 weeks, this has been going on for months now because COVID's dominated world headlines, and I don't see any stop to this anytime soon. So I expect a lot of new tricks, social engineering lures, new attack campaigns that are going to be coming out from the cyber criminals as well. So it's something that we have to stay on top of every day. The other thing quickly I'll just add is that we also monitor things like legitimate traffic. RDP, remote desktop protocol usage has spiked over the last couple of months because of open ports now listening to RDP, which obviously causes security concerns. This is a protocol that's attacked on a regular basis, and that's all part of the other part. The infrastructure piece of this, the telework for us, and work from home environment.
With everybody moving and teleworking and working remotely, I imagine the help desks are using a lot of RDP to help support those users. But as you say, that's an extremely dangerous and open protocol and ripe for hacking and attacks. Yeah,
absolutely. And healthcare is one of the primary targets that we've seen with this, of course. Hospitals, have been hit with ransomware as an example, but it's not just exclusive to healthcare. I mean, we've seen this across all verticals, and that's the other thing I was talking about with the attack surface too. Yeah.
Speaking of customers, Courtney, what have you been hearing with your customers? I know that you're out talking with all kinds of folks. You're based in Oklahoma, but you're talking with folks all across the U.S. and I should say all across North America.
Yeah, customers and partners alike. And I think a lot of what I'm hearing is, not necessarily a technology focus or the what, but it's more of the how. It's more of the how much really as well. So how can I make the best use of my existing investments? How can I add in future resiliency? How could I have done something different to steel myself during the COVID-19 pandemic? And it's really been a lot more of businesses trying to do more with less and ensuring that they're not wasting cycles on inefficiency. And that inefficiency can manifest itself in multiple ways, from the left hand not knowing what the right is doing, and the left hand in this instance being security and the right hand being networking. And so they have to make sure that they have tight integrations between those two departments now more than ever. And so they're looking at ways to integrate network and security functions. And that's not just to save time, but it's also to save money and reduce tax on internal staff that was already struggling to keep up with the status quo. You have this in all the industries. I'm focused on retail, but I work with customers across multiple different industries. And so you have this explosion of technology that had to be deployed overnight, and now it has to be managed appropriately. And as we all know, cyber skills gap and the staffing is something that it's not getting better. And that's one of the areas that has been definitely cut as businesses look to shore up OpEx spend. Digital transformation and cybersecurity may not have been cut as much as some of the other departments, but the people aren't there to run them. And the automation and training is not there to support that technology. So that's why automation right now and integration of different technologies is really kind of the order of the day. And it comes full circle when you talk about cost, because we can't forget that this pandemic has affected a lot of different industries in a lot of different ways. But a lot of the industries that I work with are determining how do they keep their doors open. They're looking at we're deferring rent or deferring lease payments, and so the last thing that they need is their technology to cause additional problems instead of solving the ones that they put them in place for in the first place. So there's multiple areas that I hear about, but two of the main areas that I probably hear the most about of how do I fix this or what technologies do I put in place to solve these problems goes back to that first one of integrating security with networking and what we would coin as security-driven networking. So it's this concept of network infrastructure needs not only to integrate well with your security technologies, but it has to actually be driven by security. It needs to support other aspects of your business. It needs to support dynamic change, and it needs to allow for seamless expansion and integration into other areas of your business. And so I think that's a key. And a lot of businesses struggle with that because they had to fill a need, they had to solve a problem quickly, and so they threw things at the wall to see what's stuck. And I think now they're in this period of evaluation of, okay, that worked and it solved this problem, but it really didn't solve the underlying problem that I already had, where things weren't talking together. My staffs were already overtaxed trying to fix these problems, and now you have 10x, 20x alerts and things that are coming into your environment, and you just don't have a way to solve for that problem. And then the other one was the reason that you have 5 or 10x of these alerts coming into the environment, and especially prevalent in the space that I deal in, is this rapid expansion of cloud and digital e-commerce. I mean, it went tenfold overnight. Businesses spinning up digital e-commerce storefronts and going into multi-cloud strategy that they may have been dipping their toes in the water before, but now they had to go head first. And we already knew that a lot of technology implementations were put in with security being, not in the forefront. They were definitely on the back burner. And that was definitely the case here. So now businesses are trying to wrap their head around, did I do this securely? Did I make the right partnerships here? Is this going to hurt me in the future? And so they're having to take a step back and really evaluate what did I do? Who did I give my keys to? Have I put in the right technologies here? Luckily there's a lot of good technology partners out there. And so, if this would have happened, an event like this 5 years ago, I don't know that businesses would have been positioned as well. The way back from COVID-19 really began 5 years ago for a lot of businesses because they were already making heavy investments in, digital transformation, in business resiliency, in some of these things. So a lot more companies were better positioned to be resilient. But I think what they quickly learned was what they did was probably not enough. Were they better positioned than others? Absolutely. But I think there's still a long road to go. And I think a lot of businesses have realized where their shortcomings were. And they're really going to start to build in technologies that provide that efficiency and provide that security as an integrated portion to their technology investments, as opposed to this piecemeal approach. And I think that's something, Peter, that I kind of wanted to ask you, that just given this increased focus on businesses to ensure full network and security ROI, they can't afford to put in pieces of the puzzle that don't talk together, and it's really causing a deficiency for them. How are organizations now rolling out technology or evaluating technology in a way that prevents them from not gaining the proper security and networking ROI?
Here at headquarters and the product team, we're seeing customers engage us in all kinds of different areas of technology, and they're always looking for that good ROI and to make sure that as they deploy their security, it's also talking to the left hand. So as you said, getting that networking and security working together in an integrated fashion to have visibility across the attack surface, as well as being able to deliver that ROI. One of the things that we've seen really take off is a big focus on authentication. So as people have moved out to work remotely, everybody's connecting back in on VPN tunnels, and some of the products that we've seen not only a lot of inquiry on, but a lot of activity on have been those authentication products, especially around the concept of zero trust network access, because companies are recognizing that, one, we have all these people coming in on tunnels that we need to understand and confirm that it's who they are. But two, we also have a lot of people who are coming in on all types of different devices, and there might be all types of different devices on these home networks that now have access to corporate networks. So the ability to understand and control everything that's connecting to that network has become key, and that's where our solution on that has really gotten a lot of attention and activity. And it wasn't the first thing. When COVID first hit, it was all about VPN tunnels and two-factor. Now it's about, wait, do I have the right controls in place? Like you were talking, that customers are now taking a step back and saying, did I put everything in place that I needed? Right. And a lot of them are thinking, oh, well, I better get some more zero trust capabilities into my security solution so I know exactly what's connecting to the network.
Yeah, or semi-zero trust, right? Because zero trust, I think, again, 5 years ago probably wasn't possible without severely negative, business impact. But I think now it is. And, another, key factor than that is people are working different hours than they were before. So this user behavior analytics where you say, hey, I know that from 7 to 5 or 9 to 5 that these people are working and these are the things they're going to be doing. I've routinely found myself working at like 3 a.m. just because I need something to do, right? And there's a lot of businesses that are like that normal business hours have changed. And what was previously the baseline of, hey, this is a standard operating procedure for this department. What's standard now? And so people have had to reevaluate their baselines and have some dynamic security, right? And I think that's something that was kind of overlooked in the beginning. We're going to put in a VPN policy and stay with the same set of standards and guidelines that we had before. But that changed as more people were working from home. Their schedules changed, and I think businesses had to think a little differently to keep up with that.
Absolutely, and those cloud-based machine learning tools, those rules, had to kick an overdrive, re-baseline of what's normal in this new shelter-in-place work environment, and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah, the other big change that we've seen obviously is with those, you talked about the zero trust environments. In FortiGuard Labs, we're seeing an even larger increase in attacks of IoT devices, embedded systems. A lot of these devices that are connected to home networks. You talked about when COVID starting, everything going to VPN and then two-factor, but really having visibility. So you talked about the solutions, having visibility on these home networks to those devices, i.e., what is the traffic? Looking for things be abnormal, botnet, C2 beacons, these sorts of things. These devices, they're used as springboards, and it's typically when you talk about these home networks, there's no segmentation a lot of the times that happens, and these devices that can be easily infected without hardened security systems in the world of IoT. I mean, 7 out of 10 of our top 10 attacks are IoT related attacks. That's a problem, right? And if you don't have visibility on that, it leaves the door wide open to these devices that are connected to corporate networks, through VPN.
It actually leads
and even if you,
to a good point.
Yeah.
We've seen an increase in one of our teleworking solutions where for key individuals, customers are actually deploying our small firewalls directly into the user's home, the employee's home, to create a little secure enclave. So you have the firewall there. It's completely protected from the home network. You can have wireless on that, so you actually have the same type of wired and wireless connectivity you'd have in the office, but you've got the full protection of a corporate enterprise firewall with all those rules applied, and of course managed remotely. So the IT team is taking care of it. That employee, that executive, whoever it is, just gets to do their business as usual. But now they've got the highest levels of protection explicitly because home networks are such a weak underbelly in this whole system. If you're not protecting yourself from that threat vector, you are leaving yourself open.
Yeah, I think necessity breeds innovation, but really, really rapid necessity breeds risk. And so not only in home offices, but we also saw this in some of the different operational models that businesses had to spin up. In retail, it was curbside or different satellite type locations where they had to make do with what they had. So they used existing wireless networks that were maybe not designed to run business traffic. Maybe they were guest or something else. But they had to pivot in it to keep business going, right? And I think right now what they're finding is there's a better way to do that. Put a firewall in front of it, or make sure that they have proper segmentation, separate SSID, something. This is really going to shine a light on allowing businesses to adapt quickly and securely in the right way. It doesn't have to be arbitrarily or overly hard, as long as you have some careful planning. And I think now businesses are going to be a lot more adept to being able to do that. If an event like this were to happen again, a lot of businesses have made a lot of learnings, and they've reduced their technological gap or their debt. A lot of them overnight. This has increased the amount of innovation by 5 years for some businesses. So there's a silver lining. It's hard to see that in front of all of this, but there has been some good that's come out of this, especially in removing some of that technical debt and just allowing businesses to see, hey, where were my gaps? And how do I fill them securely and efficiently the next time around, or if something else happens?
All right, guys, it's been great catching up and hearing how our customers and how we've been seeing the threats evolve. we should connect again in a little while and see how it's gone even further. I don't think we're going to be out of this next week, so I look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, we're in this for the long run, I think. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks. Take care.